Welcome to the Stellify podcast. I'm very excited and delighted to have dear Danny on the show. Thanks for coming, mate. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, man.
Good. Yeah, I wanted to get you on, Danny. You were one of the rare voices of 2020 with actual, integrity, masculine energy that was required at that time, because let's be honest, I don't know where most of the men went, to be honest with you, at that time. The ladies stood up and had to be masculine during that period, and we were requiring someone with decency, from the heart, not attacking, not aggressive, but a masculine energy of, common sense is what was needed. And thankfully, your videos were going viral at that time, and they were getting spread around, and they were landing on my Facebook. And I was like, thank God for that. There's somebody out there that's talking some bloody sense. So I appreciate it, mate. Thanks for everything you're doing. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's a strange old time, wasn't it?
Oh, mate, it was an unbelievable time.
I mean, it still is, but I feel like one of the things that I said a lot of from the beginning of it is that I will always, no matter even at the beginning, when I felt like there was an element of, I feel that there was a contagion of fear. In fact, the fear was the real virus. It was palpable, and I felt like we all to a certain degree were affected by that. However, for me, very, very early on, I felt like it was such a positive discovery, not only for me personally, and now like I feel like I've been for my own self, I can feel that like my journey from there to now has brought me on like fucking like warp speed, I've shed so many different layers of myself based on that situation. And I think that can be lent itself over to probably to yourself, to probably to loads of other people. I still look back at that and feel to myself, like, how was that negative? It was like something that we genuinely needed to happen. It needed to happen for us all to come out of our illusion, of this sedation, this fucking apathy that we've all been stuck under for decades. Absolutely. And now we're here.
We're here. And I agree. I think it was one of the most amazing periods, if depending on your perception of the time and the way you can look at things. I think it's key, really. I know that people were harmed. I was harmed. My family members were harmed. But for me, I mean, I had a breakdown afterwards. So I don't know if I had a pub. We signed for a pub the day they shut the pubs in the UK. And it was called the Crown, right? Believe it or not. So Corona Crown. But mate, I knew when all the Wuhan crap was happening. I had another pub before that, and I was watching it on Sky News with the punters, and I'm like, this is a load of shit. This is nonsense. So I knew, because I've been down rabbit hole since 2012 kind of thing. I kind of knew this was leading into something wrong. Anyway, we signed for this pub in the village in Lancashire that we loved. We lived in this village for years previous to getting the pub in Wigan. So we thought, right, well, we're going to play the game, Danny. We're going to play it for a little bit because we've moved into the village. We don't know how long it's going to be, and this, that, and the other. And they were doing that rule of six nonsense at the time. You could only come in your pack of six kind of thing. And it's a 6 feet apart. It's a 666 thing. Yeah. And I was like, I can't do this. I just can't do it. My soul was tearing me apart, and you're like, I remember there was a group of people at the table, one of the tables, and there were 7. And I was getting people coming saying, you need to sort that out because there's more than 6 at that table. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do it. So we became rebels, if you like. The village considered me a super spreader. We lost everything by the end of 2021. We lost our home. We lost everything. What an accolade. Yeah. And I had a breakdown. I had a complete nervous breakdown. But we became a hub, right, Dan? It was an amazing period of time. Me and my missus look back and think, wow, how we've achieved it. People were living in the back. We had a big garden and people were living out the back there. We give them a home. It was a hub for people because people were lost, weren't they? They needed somewhere to go. So we were lucky that was our job. That was our role. Like you say, prophetic. We were meant to do that and open the doors for people that were struggling. So what a time.
A temple, the Crown Temple.
The Crown Temple, and it's still shut. It's still boarded up. We drive past it. It's so sad. Beautiful pub. But yeah, what a time.
I mean, for like sort of the whole drinking culture and even alcohol aside, there's something so beautiful about pubs because
Yeah.
they do create that almost look sort of like a safe, or maybe safe's the wrong word, but a sacred environment where people can actually talk to one another, you know. And I find that is something I don't see that anywhere else than the pub, like the way, especially for British people, that place of the pub. And it don't matter if you drink; it's not got nothing to do with that. You know, you can go and sit down and have a lime soda and a packet of bacon fries. It's
Absolutely.
to me, it's just about that feeling of being in a environment where the conversation's able to flow. You know, we don't.
Yeah,
We
they
don't
didn't want that.
No, exactly. I mean, a lot of we can see that a lot of by design, a lot of those sort of like community hubs, they're not available anymore, are they? And a lot of the stuff that we would have, like even to the point where you think about community in terms of like knowing your neighbours and talking to your neighbours and stuff, everyone's been pulled into this illusion of like everyone is a suspicion, everyone's a threat. You know,
Yeah.
that feeling of fear outside of our front door has really inhibited us from being able to connect with our species.
100%. And it's been systematically happening since the 80s, really. It's been gradually, the communities were stronger in the 70s and the 80s when I was a kid. People knew your neighbours, and I must admit, we've ended up on a council estate, and it's a better community here than it was in the private estates that we were living in previously. More people here, you see the kids on the rope swings and things, because nobody's got any money here, so they're out doing stuff, and everyone knows each other. It's different. It's like being back in the 80s sometimes, walking around, you know.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But the private estates, they don't know each other. Communities have been eradicated, and by design, because there's strength in numbers. And I think the middle class are the ones that are going to have the rudest awakening through everything that was happening from 2020 onwards, as money gets tighter, and they don't have the access that they had previously to the 3 holidays a year and the big fancy cars and everything else. Because I mean, you left the UK, didn't you? You left did you leave you left pre 2020?
Yeah, I was already leaving. My wife's Belgian, so I've been living in Belgium since 2018. Mid 2018 I moved to Belgium, and I've been there ever since, and we split our time between Belgium and Spain.
Right, okay.
And yeah, I mean, for me it was already realizing that we were pregnant, or she was pregnant, and we had twins arriving. It was very clear to me, even though at the time I was in quite a senior position in the film industry, so I had an access to like a good wage and a decent career. However, like, to bring my kids up in London, where I'm from, is like it's not really conducive to being connected with the natural world, you know, and it's very fast and it's very aggressive, which is what all cities are really, and it suits some people and some people it don't. And for me, it just felt like both me and my wife, we have a similar sort of connection with the earth, and we're very sort of people who really enjoy spending as much time as we can in nature. So it felt to us like it was not the right way forward. So already in 2018, there was something signaling in me, like, to listen, this is not the place for you, you know.
Yeah.
And then based on the shit show of 2020, funnily enough, I was sitting in a hotel room in London, and I was back for work, and I had to come back on the Eurostar that day. But I was just sitting there, and I was never someone who watched the news really, but I just had it on because I was packing my bags in the hotel and stuff, and I was just like watching all the shit unfold. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd of March in 2020.
Yeah.
And it really changed everything for me, because I was in a situation where I was just about to execute 2 very large contracts that would have put me in a different sort of arena in terms of being access to resources and money.
Yeah.
And they both fell through within the space of like 2 weeks of each other, based on the pandemic. And so, like, my entire life completely changed. I was in this position where I was, you know, pretty was working quite a lot, more than I should have. Really, it was actually becoming a little bit. I would say having probably underlying health issues in terms of stress and lifestyle choices. I feel that, like when, I don't know if you know much about the film industry, but it's a very high octane environment. And it was quite frequent. I would be doing 16, 17-hour days, like on set or on a shoot or something, like on my laptop till midnight and then waking up at 5. And I started to feel that there was something in me it was not happy. I was at dis-ease.
Yeah.
And so when all this happened, it wasn't long for me to realise that it was actually a very positive thing that was pulling me out of my comfort zones, and was getting me to sort of reinvent and reimagine, to realise who I really am,
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's been echoing it from me from when I was a kid. I've always been like this, I've always been someone who's always called the shit out, like even as a proper youngster, I've always seen things differently. And it just compounded that for me. It was sort of like, there's no fucking way am I letting this, like, I'm never going along with this, and there's no way am I going to stay silent with what I can see.
Yeah.
So just out of just from pure frustration of my own situation, at the time I was in a WhatsApp group with a load of other fellas, and it was never sort of like, to be honest, it was more like a sort of Sunday league football golfing group of people, fraternity, like we were all just like people who knew each other from the local area, and we was just in a WhatsApp group. And soon as the pandemic rolled on, there was a lot of information being shared in there, and it was quite obvious that there was a few boys in there who were wide awake to what was going on, like myself. I was very aware from, I would say, 2 or 3 years after 9/11.
Yeah.
For me, I watched a
Loose Change.
Loose Change. Yeah, I watched it in a fucking where was it, in a beach in Thailand in a little wooden hut.
Yes.
And it
important.
It just went bang. I was like, whoa, that was it. That was, I think that I've always carried this feeling of inequality and injustice with me, because my mum and my dad have always been quite strong about, like, don't trust the government, don't, very much
anti-establishment,
very, very sort of like on the the front line of socialism and like anti-racism and stuff like that. Like, I remember going on holidays for the Youth Against Racism in Europe and stuff when we were kids. So we were mainly, my mum drove that side of things, but it was always in me, and then all of a sudden I saw Loose Change, and I was just like, fucking hell, we're right, this is it. It all makes sense now, this is that we've been trodden on.
Absolutely.
And so then all that was kind of, I suppose it was very much solidified during the pandemic, and based on I suppose, like the collective validation from other people, like, oh yeah, like this is definitely like this is rotting in Denmark. And I just made a couple of videos for the WhatsApp group, and then someone shared them, and then one of my other pals had a group on Telegram, and he shared it into there, and there was a very positive reaction, sort of like, wow, I want to hear more from this guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to make some videos. And the response was really, really liberating in a personal way for me, like something that I suppose, like, we can always say that our internal voice, our truest voice that's coming from our heart, that is something we've always felt. And I suppose to be able to put that into form and have it really create a positive reaction amongst our peers, to me, it just felt like I'd arrived.
Well, it will do, because you're pulling the wisdom from somewhere, and it's not from the head, is it? It's from the heart.
No.
It's you're pulling that wisdom in, and but you've got that passion. I've got a similar. I'm very political. I was very left-leaning growing up. Always anti-establishment. I could never understand why there's a family that's so wealthy and there's then so many people so poor. I could never get my head around that as a kid. So why are these better than I am? What's that all about? And Loose Change was a big one for me as well, mate. It was. I think it's been a big one for a lot of. I think, and I do question of how that and Zeitgeist became what it was at that time. It was a huge awakening for a lot of people around 2012 period.
Yeah.
A great film. I don't know who did it. I don't know how it became as beautifully polished and perfect the way it was, but it did what it needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that like you look back at that stuff and you sort of like where it came from. To me, it doesn't really matter anymore because the vehicle, for me personally, from my personal experience, was incredibly positive and incredibly empowering. So I can't see how that would have been conducive to a negative plan, you know, at the time. Maybe it is. Maybe it's correct. Who gives a shit? It doesn't really matter. We're
Well, it
here
woke
now.
us up, didn't it?
Yeah. To a certain degree. I think, like I say, what it done for me was it justified a lot of the dormant stuff that was already in me. And it made me go, like, oh my God, like fucking hell, it's actually like put in a really simplified way to the money and control and power structures of our world. And that to me was the bit I suppose like the bit was missing for me, because I looked at homeless people and I used to be brokenhearted by it, you know, really brokenhearted by it. Never could understand why people like had so much resources available to them and so many people were poor. And I was growing up, I was like really, really poor, you know, like we were, I mean, it's all relative, you know, most of the time I was fed. But in terms of sort of like being able to have any kind of, if you think of your sort of like the lower parts of our survival resources, we had anything above that, they were missing. And so you're looking around at the world, and it does seem like an injustice, doesn't it? It's imbalanced.
Totally. But this is why this awareness is important for people. If they can see through that fog, you know, like 2020 was, and I say it's 2020 vision because it actually did.
I like that.
It brought it out, and so many people. I mean, we were getting people come to the pub, you know, in the 60s and 70s, Danny, that could no longer speak to the spouses because one member could see something different to the other. But it woke people up from the core in so many ways, and it was needed.
Yeah,
because consciousness is rising, and it's part of it, you know, collectively.
but that's the bit that always makes my brain fizz a little bit. Is like I'm trying to work out. Is like, well, who's driving that change then? Because if we look at something like this, we can quite clearly say it's the gift in adversity that has created this positive change, this positive action, this sort of like reimagination of what we're doing here, and has given us like meaning. It's made things more wholesome. It's given us like a real direction. It's almost like we're being guided by something. But so like to me, it's like then what engineered the pandemic in the first place? Then to be able to create that change, you know, it's ripped us out of our comfort zones, and now we've got to a point where we're all sort of realizing our potential.
Yeah, it's a good question. It is a really good question. I mean, I've gone down a lot of the Gnostic route over the past few years. I don't know if you've ever delved into that, you know, with the demiurge and the archons and things like that. And the fact that we've got we're the God spark, we're the, you know, the spark within us. So something has had to happen to bring balance back. So if it's wisdom, which is Sophia in the Gnostic story, has reignited the ones with the spark within, you know. So sometimes it needs a kick up the arse to get us forward, doesn't it? You know, and that was a big kick up the fucking arse. A big one. And I mean, I don't know what because you moved away and things like, I don't know what it was like for you, but I mean, I'd like to hear more. But for us, it's like families were no longer speaking to me. My peers that I grew up with blocked me, alienated me, you know. And as I'm thinking, I'm just trying to help you here, you know. You look at this, and you can't wake people up, as you probably know. You know, it's.
I mean, I've got my mum and dad were separated from when I was about 5 or 6. And so I've got my mum's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, and everyone on my dad's side, I think based on the fact that I had me, my younger brother and my cousin, were all three of us very, very aware of and awake to the shit of the world well before the pandemic. So to us, straight away, we were like, listen, don't do that. And everyone on my dad's side was pretty much like on board with us.
That's good.
Whereas my mum, bless her, I feel that she was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer, probably about, I would say probably about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago. And so I feel like from that space, she really made her decisions back then that she was gonna buy into what the NHS consultants were telling her and the oncologists, as opposed to sort of like going out and looking for another holistic or natural treatment for it. And it's funny because actually, like, the catalyst for my deep dive into my own health was my mum's diagnosis. Because I was like, no, there's no way she's having chemo. There's no way she's having radiation. Fucking, I need to figure out this. So me and my partner, we tried loads of different things. And that's when I actually started drinking my own urine, you know.
Yeah.
Based
Urine
on
therapy.
based on the deep dive of my mum. And I shared all that stuff with her. And I just feel she was a little bit, fear does funny things to people, doesn't it? It doesn't really,
It does.
It's quite a powerful, and it's a very low vibration, but it's still a very powerful one that keeps hold of people. And I feel that she chose the sort of what she considered to be the safer option, instead of what I would have felt would have been the more the self-governing way forward.
Yeah.
And I suppose like all of those years of being in that sort of in the protective custody of the NHS, as soon as all of a sudden they said to her, oh, you're on a watch list, you have to be very careful, you need to make sure you have this and this, and she just went along with it. She just got pulled along with the tide.
And you can understand that because it's fear and conditioning, isn't it? And it's totally understand that.
At the time I couldn't, because at the time I was heartbroken, you know, like, because
I bet you were.
I think we all, like, my mum is one of my closest people in my life, and she still is to this day. But at that time, there was so much anger and frustration in me that was for these bastards who have created this coercion and this blackmail and this fear manipulation over people, that I suppose it was misdirected towards my mum at the time. And I wasn't rude or anything, but I was sort of like, Mum, you don't realise what you've done, and fucking hell. And our bridges seem to have just, you know, fallen away. And I think it took a lot of my own work and a lot of, you know, a different perspective, a calmer perspective further down the road, when we realized that maybe it ain't that bad, you know, because at the beginning, I think a lot of people who were aware to what they were potentially putting in said medicalization. We thought that it was gonna be like, you know, within a matter of months or even a matter of a couple of years, everyone was going to be dead and they were going to drop in like flies. And I know they are incrementally. I'm not trying to sort of dilute the.
No, I know what you mean though.
The real importance of the situation, because we're seeing it across the world now. You know, we're seeing like the turbo cancers and young people having all of these heart problems and stuff, and like sterilization has gone on. So I'm not diluting it, but I do feel like in certain situations, I'm surprised my mum's still here, you know? And so the fact that I'm surprised of it, and I'm sort of like, well, it's a gift, isn't it? Like, and who knows like what, there's none of us can really completely ultimately understand each person's individual situation. You know, there's so many other factors in play, isn't there? Like spirituality, the energy of fucking love, which is like the all encompassing fucking energy that we have in this universe. There's all of these things that go into the factor of like whether someone's still here, you know, and what their body is able to do against whatever that is. Because let's remember, that's synthetic bollocks, mate. That's synthetic bollocks. It has got no control over us unless we consent to its control, you know, like everything else. So, and I know my old lady is one powerful woman, like really powerful.
Good.
You know, so I feel to myself is that she might just be going like that. Do you know what? Fuck, park that up. You can't hurt me.
Yeah. And I think that's great, that, because I mean, that's inspiring in itself, because I think this period of time is about remembrance. It's about remembering who we are, or finding who we are. And maybe your mum just knows. She just knows who she is.
She's a powerful woman, and like she really is, you know, like she's got something in her, which is I've never met someone who sees the best in people like my mum. You know, she constantly sees the best in people. She's always positive, and not positive from a sense of like she's like trying to gloss over it. She says it with like fucking real, like, you know. And I mean, it's a lot of where I get my sort of like power from and passion from. Yeah.
You're a very passionate guy, and I love that. You know, and I think that's important. We were lacking so much of it in 2020, mate. And like I say, I know I'm repeating myself, but I was just so pleased when I was seeing your videos getting thrown around on Facebook. It was like, yes. Thank fuck for that.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
and
'cause
the thing is, like, if we look at where that's brought us to now, I mean, I know, like you say that you've had a tough time, yeah, but like within that tough time, within that journey back into the shadow self, like I think we realise, like to be able to come through that, we're just getting stronger. We're just getting more formidable. We're becoming more impenetrable, and we're having a deeper and more sort of wider perspective of our existence here. And to realise a lot of the time that there is a formula for living, right? There really is a blueprint. There's a schematic for living. Like,
yeah,
and when I say living, I'm not talking about like surviving. I'm talking about thriving, flying. You know, and I suppose that's what has brought me to. I was the voice of that when I was sort of in this fucking impassioned, mad, almost like trying to get everyone to fucking wake up. But now
yeah,
I'm realizing that like it's all about me. You know, it's all
it
about
is.
it's attraction over promotion, and just by me solidifying this inside of me, I realised that the knock-on effect that's having in the world, and everything that I put out has got another level of output to it now. It's got a deeper, stronger frequency that is having more of an effect than me going, oi, 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 you know?
And that's a big boom for me, that, Danny, because that's exactly how I feel as well.
Mm,
It's like everything has got to be internalized now. So I was
yeah.
pushed into my shadow so we lost the pub, everything, and I had to go and do that path, that shadow work. I had no choice. It was a case of, look, I had to set myself this intention. I was fucked. I didn't want to dress myself. I didn't want to be here anymore. I got to that point, and I was like, right, there's an intention here. I've got to fix myself, and then I'm going to show others how to fix themselves,
Mm,
because nobody should have to go through what I'm going through right now. I don't
mm,
want that.
mm,
And it was a beautiful moment, really, because when that intention happened, there's fucking magical power in that.
mm,
There's like huge power in that. So I walked the path and I studied, and I became isolated.
mm,
You know, I care for my partner who's disabled as well. So it was a really tough period in a way, because she had to step up then, because we got 2 kids, you know, dogs, everything else. And this person that was looking after her for the past 10 years could no longer even dress himself.
yeah.
So
Wow.
she found power as well,
Of
you know,
course.
so that just, you know, so it all, and now, you know, Stellify is something that I'm pushing forward, and I'm living through, but it's also creating me,
Mm.
because it's becoming something to help people,
Fuck me, man. And that's
you
so
know.
weird. I had that
But it's
exact conversation with my missus an hour ago.
really give
Yeah,
over.
I did. Yeah.
I
Because
mean, this is the thing.
I was just talking about our project, you know, which is like we've all, I think we've all got a lot of us who are doing this positive, creating this positive action in the world. We can all sort of say like this project, that project, but they're all part of the same collective mission, aren't they? You know, if
Yeah,
you get
definitely.
down to the fundamentals of it, of like the fabric of it, it's all the same fucking mission. Like we're trying to rid this earth of that other source. And
100%. Yeah,
for me,
100%.
like when I was talking to Hannah, just exactly what you just said is that you are Stellify. Like I am the Free Folk Project, because
Yes.
it's doing all of the intentions I've got for it to do out there. It's doing in here. So there's this wonderful reflective mirror process going on where like you're becoming it, you know, and the more you become it, the stronger it gets, because it's taking on our actual fucking character.
It has its own energy.
Yeah.
It's its own being in a way. It's
Yeah.
just you've aligned to it, and it's like,
It's God, isn't it?
it
That's
has
what
to
it
be
is, mate.
something. It's
It's God.
magic.
Yeah,
Whatever
it's
it
God.
is, it's magic. Yeah, it has
It's
to
God.
be.
It's God in materialization, as far as I'm concerned.
I think
And
so. It's all
when I
divine
say God, I don't mean, you know, I'm not talking about any sort of, you know,
deity.
yeah. I'm talking about
Yeah,
source. I'm talking about where we're
absolutely.
from, what we are. That
The
spark, you
true,
know.
the
Yeah,
essence.
yeah.
Yeah. And have you always felt that inside, that essence? Is that what drove you, do you think, in 2020? That mission is ignited somehow then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a funny thing, because I've always felt different, right? And I don't mean that in a way that like any better than anyone else, but just to feel like I just see things in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, I'll tell you a funny story, right? I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I was sitting in an assembly in my primary school in southeast London, and unbeknown to all the kids, the teachers had created this April Fool's joke. And what they set up an entire assembly with like a presentation, all the teachers standing there with these stern faces on, all playing their part. And they told the entire school, the assembly, that national curriculum was determining that we had to learn not only our 12 times tables, but we had to learn it up until 39. So the level of sort of maths and numeracy for children was like, whoa. And the way they delivered it, it was quite like firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking around me in this assembly, and there was 200 other kids in that assembly hall. And I remember everyone going like that. And I was sitting there going, what? They're fucking lying, And I knew, I absolutely knew. And there was a teacher, the deputy head called Mrs. Cowgill. And she told other teachers that there's going to be one boy in this fucking school who's not going to believe this. And she knew it was me. And that to me, I know it's a tiny little anecdote about my childhood, but it's the theme that has ran through my life.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is my unique, it's my unique individual expression of whatever this is, and it's just something I've always felt, I've always known that there's more to this. I've known it all the time. And I've gone through such superficial partying, drug taking, fucking proper adventures. And it was always sort of a way of distracting me or sedating me from that feeling that I always knew.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Do you think you've been here before then?
It's funny. I was talking to my mate yesterday, and I was chatting to him over WhatsApp, and I just said to him, I said, "Fucking hell, I've just had the most strong deja vu, such a strong deja vu." And I don't know whether it's that we've been here before, or whether that is ourselves in the future. Because if you think about us as consciousness, as energy, the time space imprisonment or boundaries don't exist, do they?
No.
So it's all happening now. There is no past, present, or future. It's just all one big present. It's the now. And that's so right. I feel that like whatever it is out there that is all knowing part of me, the higher self part of me, has created a blueprint for me to be back here in this physical realm to be able to create the stuff that we need to collectively move forward.
Boom.
So I just feel like that is what the deja vu is. It's just another validation. The synchronization happens all the time in our lives, like all of the things we're just going, fucking hell, I knew that was going to happen. Or fuck me, it's 11:11 again, or 22:22, and all this. Yeah. I don't ever like put too much emphasis on it, but I just feel like there's just something reminding us we're doing the right thing. We're on the right path.
Definitely.
And even to the point when you're sort of like, you know you're on the right path, and then you check your bank balance, and your bank balance doesn't agree that you're on the right path, and you're going, fuck, how are we going to get through
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
I know, yeah, we all are. But I just feel if we just really, really just dig our heels in and remember what we're doing, remember and have the faith that this is the way, everything's going to fall into place. I've got no doubt about that.
I have no doubt either. And this place is coded. It's like literally fucking coded.
Yeah, but we coded it.
Mad. Well, we're the creators.
Yeah.
This is the thing. We've got to remember that we could. This is a dream in a physical, dense matter, but we could dream another dream. We can change everything.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing is like a lot of the time is that I suppose it's what gives me a little bit of frustration, sometimes humor as well, is that like I could do a post on social media and it's about the geopolitical arena, or it's about the latest headline, or it's me deciphering the bollocks, and it can go viral quite quickly. However, if I sort of like put a little video out which is about self-empowerment, and he's sort of like redirecting people to our project, which is all about helping people, supporting people in finding their power.
Yeah.
It just like you see the metrics. It's just like now maybe there's an algorithm suppressing that. I don't know, but it seems to me is that people are more still engaged in the sensationalism than they are about like it's that whole thing, isn't it? You see the queue of people. So like, who wants change? Yeah, we want change. Who wants to change?
Well, that's it, because you got to then look at yourself.
Of course,
and it's a tough
period. No one wants to do it.
The shadow work is tough, but it's vital. It's vital on this journey.
the importance of it, right, is impossible to understate, because if you think about the importance of it, is that like you go like, well, why is it so important that everyone's empowered? Because if everyone's empowered, this shit show is over like that.
Exactly.
Because no one's going to suffer it anymore. They're going to be like, I'm not interested in listening to your version of what's going on in the world, the news, ta-da. I'm not interested in all the subliminal fucking false media out there because it's all just awkward and boring and nauseating now.
Yeah,
I'm not interested in anything else about how I'm going to create positive action in this world. That's what self-empowerment does for you. So then we're all on the same page, then, aren't we? We're all going, come on, let's fucking do it. And then it's over.
Hence the distractions, though, like you mentioned, you know, we're and I have no regrets in the I ain't like you, partied like nobody's business and enjoyed it. I used to, you know, I was at Old Trafford all the time or Gig Lane watching Bury.
You were ready.
Man, yeah.
So we're actually in the final then.
And you were at the final, yeah. But but now I've no interest in it. My lad still loves watching Manchester United, so I go with him, and you know, and we'll watch it. But I'm not drawn into the emotion of any of it anymore. No. I'm very just much the observer of what's going on around me. Yeah, I'm very focused on this, which is part of my own self-empowerment anyway. These conversations are purely for me, but hopefully others will gain something from listening to what we're talking about, and I'm sure they will. And that's what I do.
I mean,
but
I was just going to say the thing for me is that like I always want to remind people that anything I say, it never comes from a space of judgment. Right? I'm not judging anyone. I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm not saying you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. Like I liken myself to it sometimes. Like I have massive periods where I go through a detox. Right, like I'm on one now. I'm actually fasting at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
And I continually do that throughout. Whenever it comes up in me, right? I don't say like, oh, I have to do it then, or you should do it then, or like it's not like that. I just feel into it. And then the other times, like where I'm not feeling like I want to detox, then I can drink a bottle of Rioja, like the best of them. You know, I mean, I'll sit and smoke a spliff under the stars and be fucking like, wow, and enjoying that part. I think like,
and why not?
Life has got all of these things there for us to be able to enjoy. However, the strongest current that runs in me is one that I'm on this mission. Right. So it doesn't matter how much Rioja I drank last night. It doesn't matter if I dropped an E the other weekend, or if I'm out there partying with my old pals, or I'm sitting there watching Spurs. None of it matters, because as soon as that's over, bang, I'm back on my collective mission again. I'm there and I know what I'm doing. I know what my goal is. I know why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, you feel it.
So the thing is that like, for me, like, and this is not me condoning it. I'm not telling people you can go out and do that, each to their own. But what I would say is that for me, like, I want to celebrate all of the rich stuff that's available to me in this existence, right? And if it doesn't have a negative effect on me, then why not? You know, if it doesn't become a crutch for me, or it doesn't become something that is taking over my life, then why not? You know, so a case for like for me is like you say, and you're bang on. Is I can sit there. I'm going to watch Spurs tonight, right? They're in. You're in Europe tonight as well, aren't you?
Yeah,
I'm going to watch it. But for 90 minutes, I'll be like, "Oi!" on the edge of my seat, and then when it's over, win, lose or draw, I couldn't give a fuck.
No.
Whereas in the old days, that would dictate my week.
Me too. It'd ruin my fucking week completely. And I spoke to my old man about it, because my dad. I go around to see my dad since pre-2020. Like the relationships have been different, and because there's been nothing to talk about. But the only thing we could talk about is football. But I've kind of gone so far since Bury Football Club, because we were big followers of Bury Football Club as well. Since they were disappeared out of the league, and I was like, I've done with it all. It's just bollocks, basically. But I have to dip my toe in there, Danny. Otherwise, I've no conversation with people as well, because they don't want to talk about what I want to talk about, which is this.
But I think there's like it doesn't. I don't think it does us an injustice. I think it's just the thing is like I always say, like, I box clever, depending on who I'm with. Like if these relationships have got such substance and value to me, then I'm gonna create a medium for me to be able to continue that relationship. You know,
absolutely. So you should.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the difference between like a lot of people who I think of. Perhaps they've ostracized themselves because they've become so identified as like truthers or the awakened, and they've created division without knowing it.
Oh, without doubt.
Yeah, the division's coming through the back door, and it's the same fucking thing again. That's what they've done. Like all this, it drove me mad when I see all these cunts putting, I'm a pure blood. I was like, listen, no one's fucking pure blood unless you've never eaten food in the modern world. You've never been affected by EMFs. You've never fucking had any kind of vaccination or medicalization from Big Pharma. Then you might be able to say you're pure blood. No one like that exists. You know.
No, and let's be honest as well. This was a military grade brainwashing psyop, huge. You know, for whatever reason we saw through it. Great, that's great. I mean, but many people that we love didn't, and it doesn't mean they're a bad person because they didn't. And it's not because they're a bad person that they maybe distanced themselves from you either. No, because they were scared.
Yeah,
they were frightened.
Yeah.
You know, and we should be together in this. You know, these people might just be ready at some point to talk about it.
I'm seeing some very, very interesting stuff come up at the moment. You know, like people I would have thought that they were. I could have said at some point they were unreachable, and I'm seeing stuff come out of them now, and I'm thinking, oh fucking hell, and I'm like desperate to send another meme, but I'm like, no, relax, don't go too heavy, give them their moment, you know, let them come out gently. But there is a change. There's change on the horizon.
There is definitely change. It's definitely happening. Consciousness is rising. But I've recently joined a business networking group, and I can't do corporate anymore. You know, since the pub shut, I tried getting a job and this, that, and the other, and I just can't do it. You know, it's just my soul will just tear me apart, and I'll be ill again. For whatever reason, can't do it. So I started. So I do counselling, and I do Reiki and hypnosis therapy. And I got this little boat in Lancashire, and I do the treatments on there. So I thought, I need to bring some income into the household kind of thing. So I'll join a business networking group, and obviously these guys are all very, as you can imagine, they're very attuned to the business world. They're very corporate and everything else. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to fucking talk about, Danny, honestly. But anyway, I got talking to a lady who was very interested in my story, because you do your 60 seconds as you go around the table.
Yeah.
And I said, look, from my illness, from my breakdown, set my intention. This is what I'm going to do. And so she was interested. So I got talking to her. And I can't keep my mouth fucking shut, can I? You know what I mean? So I'm opening my mouth at about 2020, and she's like, well, my brother died. I'm like, well, okay, listen, right. You've got to understand.
There's a fucking tumbleweed rolling by.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, my perception and my worldview changed in 2012. What I see is very different to what you see. What happened? Yes, people got harmed, but it isn't what they told you.
No, of course not.
You know, and that. So, but I can't stop putting my foot in it. It's like my missus is the same. So I overheard her. We had a neighbour around yesterday in the back garden, and I'm on the laptop editing, and I overheard her talking about chemtrails in the sky and everything. I'm like, so I opened the window and I went, "Are you fucking red pilling our neighbour?" And it's just funny. You can't stop yourself.
I mean, I don't think we should either. You know, like if as long as it's delivered in a respectful way, and more, I think the key is for me is that the difference is that like it's almost coming from a place of sort of inquisition, like a gentle inquisition now, where I'm sort of inquisitive and sort of curious and asking questions, as opposed to sort of like, you know, there's the other side of being someone who has got a good understanding of the sort of nefarious plan going on. I think if you deliver that in the wrong way, then either people think you're mad, or it's just too deep and too dull for them to it's just too much for them. Yeah,
it's too much. It just breaks people.
Yeah,
you know, and
the whole life's becoming like you're looking at your whole life and you're seeing it's an illusion. For me, that's liberating. You know, that's really liberating. But I could flip the coin quite easily and see that as sort of like, with people have identified so strongly with that existence, then that can be terrifying. You know, it can be really terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. Yeah. And I witnessed that at the pub when you've got 60, 70-year-old people coming up and going, I've spent all my life, I'm a pensioner now, and it's all a lie.
Yeah.
You know, and it was hard for them. It was really tough. So I get it. I totally get that fear. want to stay in your paradigm and in your comfort zone. I don't want the comfort zone personally. I'm eager to break through all that and wherever I'm supposed to go. That's the difference, I suppose. But I totally get it, and I respect. I tried like many. Do you remember? I don't know if you probably remember this. So when they were sticking the needles in everyone's arms, there was a video that got passed around, and there was this person that collapsed and was stretchered out, and there was a queue for this. And they're all watching, and they just turned back round and carried on.
Yeah,
and that's how deep the control is and the programming. It's quite amazing.
I mean, it's like I feel that there's a real split in reality, at the moment, and I feel like there's some people, bless them, they're never going to get it. It doesn't matter what happens; they're never going to understand it. So I think we are starting to see quite clearly two different timelines playing out.
100%.
And it's just a case of like a lot of the time, what I hear from people, I just think like that's not in my reality. It's really not in my reality. Those people are not even on my radar anymore because we've got such a strong output of who we are that it's really magnetizing all of that good stuff back to us, because that's what we are at the end of the day, right? That's what everyone forgets. You're sort of like going like we can become the architects of this reality. I'm not saying to the point where we can like change everything like ourselves, but in our close proximity, absolutely certainty, we can have a massive effect on our reality.
Of course we do. Well, you're the storyteller. You're the actor.
Yeah.
In your show.
Yeah.
It is a Truman Show. What we're in.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
and you just wake up to it, and it's like, well, where do you want to go with it? I mean, he decided to sail his boat at the end and get the fuck out, didn't he? That's where I'm heading.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was sitting there writing. I do like a weekly newsletter based on our MIGA. We have a MIGA space every Sunday.
Yes.
And I write a newsletter based on that subject matter. So the subject matter of this week has been fear. Yeah. And so I was just sort of writing about it earlier, and I was just like, it literally is like, what is that sort of dialogue in our minds? It inhibits us more than we understand. And the problem is we've identified, and like with this understanding of truth that's us when it's not us. It's not at all. That voice is probably to begin with, it's been implanted as a program by the other source. Yeah. And then it's reinforced through media manipulation, through curriculum, through government stories, through news, whatever. It's in reinforcing this idea of that we're insignificant, that we should stay small, that we shouldn't rock the boat. Like, how many times you heard that growing up in England? Don't rock the boat, or don't upset the apple cart. Like to me, exactly. I want to fucking upset the apple cart. I want to rock the boat. I want to rock the boat until every bastard falls in and wakes up.
There's all this conditioning happening. It's like, what was it? They had in the early 2000s, and everyone was putting it in the living rooms, keep calm and this, that, and the other.
Keep calm,
the UK, bollocks. But that's conditioning.
Yeah,
they're all because words are magic, aren't they? There's power in words.
Spelling,
massive power. Spelling, yeah.
And then you think of like the media as well, like broadcasting. They're talking about sorcery. That's sorcery right there.
Programs.
So one of the things for me is like I don't know if you know, but like I mentioned it a bit earlier that I worked in the media, in film and television since I was like early 20s, and I was actually an actor as well at one point. So I've got a sort of very like well-rounded idea of how it all operates, and that is one of my. I would say it's probably one of my biggest passions is storytelling. And I feel like that is so important moving forward, because we can reimagine and we can recreate like stories to be positive, so they're actually something that is got purpose and has got meaning for people. And so it's one of the parts of the project for me, our project, that is just of so much. It's so exciting, right? To be able to really realize that we're able to empower people through the medium of telling stories.
Yeah, and you're good at it, mate. You are really good at it. and it
Yeah, I mean,
works.
I think it's like I always say this is like I'm very aware of my shortcomings. You know, I wouldn't start all of a sudden to sort of like try and become a quantum physicist, right? Because I know my brain does not work like that. But I am
Never
very
imagine.
aware that I'm a great communicator, you know, and I'm a great motivator. I'm aware of that, and I'm becoming more and more strengthened in the areas that I can see that are part of my design. And I think that's a very important thing for everyone is to try to realize that. And once we all realize that, then we start to play to our strengths as well, right? And that's the whole thing about the journey within, isn't it? It's like when
It
we go
is.
within, we start to figure all that stuff out. We start to go, oh right, that's who I am. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, stripping back the programming.
Yeah,
It's just pulling the layers off, because there's that many layers to the whole thing. I mean, that's just us as individuals. I mean, I dive into a lot of the reality thing on my channel as well. You know, that this place is a bonkers place to be in. You know, but we're capable of. I firmly believe capable of changing everything, like you say, within your own story, and then that can inspire others.
mm.
You're changing your story. Look, it's like people driving the nice cars and whatever, everything else, are not exactly the happiest people in the world, but they might see me walking down the street with my two dogs with a big smile on my face.
Yeah,
And why is he so fucking happy when he's
yeah,
living on a council estate? You know?
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's you can't buy it, can you? That's the thing.
No.
You can't buy happiness. It's something you have to. Like to say that we have to work on it. I know it's something I've used that term a lot as well, but I'm getting more sort of the understanding I get on a different perspective or deeper level is that it's not so much working, it's just uncovering, remembering, you know, because
Remembering.
we are already whole, aren't we? We're already all of it already. It's just that
Yeah, yeah.
there's just a lot of this programming and these layers of the programming in the way of us actually seeing that or feeling that or being able to utilize that. And so that's why, like, the thing again is that, like, unless people endeavor to go into that space, that I don't see them ever being able to acquire or attain like real happiness or joy or contentment, because it's all about within, you know.
It is.
It's
It is.
fucking
And it's,
it's so easy. Like, it's so, like, we've made it so complicated. Like, you could go to a shrink
mm,
who's going to keep you there for a long time based on the old traditional models of therapy and stuff. Never really getting to the point that you're already it. You know, you're already like relax, yeah, chill out. You are already perfect.
I know. I
You know,
know. This is it. But again, it's the programming, the distractions, and everything else. And there's a darker consciousness that is pulling and halting that progress. And it is to stop us remembering. That's what I keep beating on about. Everything that's distracting you is to stop you realizing and remembering who you truly are.
yeah, because it's
And
all
you
over,
are.
isn't it? Then
It's all
it's,
over. Yeah.
collectively, if I feel if we were to very loosely say that it's all about energy, right? If it's all about energy, and then all of a sudden we are a collective energy, we're our own individual energy, but we make up a collective energy. As soon as
Definitely.
that reaches such a level of higher consciousness, then it reaches tipping point, and there is just a fucking tsunami of conscious, self-empowered people that just will no longer suffer this shit. And if people like tuning in and are asking, what shit are we talking about? We're talking about fucking the enslavement of the human race, which is like, it's so obvious throughout our entire, what we've now believed to be a normal way of being. And it's
Mm.
completely abnormal.
Do you think there'll always have to be, though, that side where people are being controlled for people like us that are delving deep into the heart, if you like, and we're not having this, you know? So we need that paradigm in front of us. Say, well, I'm not having that in my reality. Do you think there's always going to be that?
Yeah, I mean, I think until that other source leaves, like I actually see that based on my own sort of research and people I've listened to over the years. Like, I truly believe that there is like a genuinely there is another source on this planet,
Mm.
yeah, and
Mm.
they're with some kind of technical infrastructure. They're keeping mankind locked in this low vibration imprisonment.
Yeah.
And so I feel that the way out of it is the way in. You know, the more we go deeper into ourselves, the more like that can't affect us. I genuinely, I would say for the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't read a headline, and I keep my finger on the pulse because it's a lot
Yeah.
of the way how I narrate what's going on in the world.
Of course.
I can't remember a headline that's had any effect on me. You know, any. And I've read it. I've been down all the rabbit holes of pole shifts and fucking tsunamis and famines and FEMA camps and fucking alien takeovers and cloning and whatever else, splicing the human race. But none of it bothers me because I can see that we are something so much more authentic than that.
Yeah.
When we strip ourselves bare, we come back to the fundamentals, and I think what we are love in materialization.
That's exactly it, mate.
Yeah. And how can that be stopped? It's like I feel that, like when I say to people, I go like if you're struggling to connect with that feeling, I just go to you, right, have you got children? And they say yes or no. And I say, if you ain't got children, have you got like a pet that you love? Or have you got like something a parent or a sibling that's something you could say that I truly, truly love? I say, like, fucking home in on that feeling, right? That is you.
Yeah.
That is who you are. And that feeling, like that feeling of love, that is infinite. It's impenetrable. It's like it can't be destroyed. It's like it's impossible to destroy it. So like what are we scared of?
Yeah, well, this is it. Energy doesn't get destroyed, though, does it? It's just it can be reformed.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that shadow work allows for you to reform your story. That's where I was at. It was like there was elements of my story that I was unhappy with, hence why I kept coming back to anxiety or depression or something. So it's like, well, what's not working for me anymore? Therefore, these stories are fucking off because I'm not being that anymore. Yeah.
But I suppose the sort of like the paradox about it is that like the stories are always like sort of signaling this invitation to make positive change, aren't they? Like we kind of need the stories to be the impetus to get us to make the change.
Definitely.
So I look back and I've had, you know, I had a pretty fucking colourful upbringing, you know, and then with that upbringing, I grew into a young man that went on a pretty colourful adventure into drugs and violence and fucking, you know, right, some quite a lot of misdemeanors. And I look back at it now and I wouldn't change one fucking thing. However difficult it's been, however like sad or like full of grief or suffering, I would not change one bit of it. And that's the thing. Who you are. Like you celebrate that. Once you celebrate that, then you almost like make peace with it and accept it and forgive it, and then it all becomes part of you. It dissolves into the entirety and become whole. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
But without those experiences, you wouldn't be who you are today.
No.
You wouldn't be doing this.
No.
You know, you might still be doing film, might still be acting.
Well, I want to act again because I love it, but I'd like to do it. I want to do it when I'm writing the scripts, you know, and the scripts have all got something that makes people feel some kind of empowerment from, or some kind of, you know, implanting some kind of seed of change in them.
Yeah.
You know?
So tell me about Miga then, because I know I've watched a few. Actually, they're really, really good. I love what you do. You're bringing people on the show as well, aren't you, to discuss?
Yeah, well, we changed the format actually a couple of weeks ago. So the idea, we've got this Free Folk project, and in our project, it's both a physical and a virtual project that is running parallel to each other. So we've got our piece of land in Spain that we're ever expanding to create eventually what will be sort of like a supportive, interdependent village of like-hearted people. And of course, like once we're doing that, then we really discover that there's so much media content within the physical part of the project as well. But because of the situation we find ourselves in our world, is that like to be able to connect effortlessly across the world like we are today, the virtual part of the project has got a lot of potential as well to be able to reach people and empower people. And so we've got a space called Miga, which was born from me really mimicking the whole "Make America Great Again" slogan. And I thought, fuck, making America great, you know, like that's been one of the problems in my fucking seeing that in my world. So I just for a laugh, I came up with this idea of Miga, which is make yourself great again.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so the space really, it started off as like a town square where I would just have a conversation with the audience, and then I would invite people to come up onto the stage and share their takes on stuff and what's going on in their life. However, I feel like there's a little bit more of a streamlined approach we've taken in the last few weeks, which is kind of like me just really we never had subject matter before, and I feel like now we have. It's making everything a lot more powerful, a lot more concise.
Yeah.
And I suppose what it does is it streamlines it so we can package that and we can put it out as media content that can reach much more people than say the 50 people who attend the actual live call. So it's a really sort of powerful space that just really, I suppose, creates sort of very uncomfortable conversations around lots of issues that and subjects that I suppose a lot of people don't really want to delve into, but I don't mind, going into the dark stuff or into the stuff that I feel it might make people feel uncomfortable. It might make people go and look in the mirror, because I think there's a lot of value in doing that.
There is.
And then I suppose, we've got most excitingly for me at the moment, we've got a children's animation that we've been working on called Veg Heads.
Oh wow, brilliant!
Yeah. And it's like it really is an answer to so much of what we could call sinister narrative that is embedded in children's entertainment. A lot of the reasons we are like we are. Because I was talking about this the other day, right, and I thought to myself, like, it was making me laugh. I was actually on a Miga, and I was making myself laugh when I was talking about it, because I said, like, imagine like the stories we've been told about that fucking the wolf and the 7 goats, where the wolf waits for the mum to go out, knocks on the door dressed up as the mum, puts on the mum's voice, and then eats all the fuckers. And there's only there's one goat hiding, terrified in the cupboard, who then tells the mum, and the mum goes and cuts the wolf's gut open, fills it up with stones, and then throws it in the river. And I was like, that's a lovely tale to tell your children before they go to bed.
Happy days.
Isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Or fucking Hansel and Gretel, which is about a Peter Pitavore, fucking old grandma who's going to cook and eat children,
I know.
So like when we take a step back and we look at that, and we can quite clearly see the design of a lot of that stuff is to instill fear in us and suspicion and threat, which is all about us connecting with a lower energy and a lower vibration of what our default setting is. For me, it became apparent straight away. It's like, I'm done moaning about what's in all of the cocks in Disney, right? I'm done moaning about it, all right? I'm not going to sit there and go, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And trying to wake people up. What I want to do is give the option of change, right? What can I do in my own power to create something which is the absolute polarized of that disempowerment and that threat and that suspicion and that fear? What can I do to create something that is different? So our wonderful little animation, Veg Heads, has been born.
Love it.
So we're just in the process at the moment of funding a pilot. And once the pilot's funded, I think we're in quite a strong position to be able to try and get it commissioned.
Outstanding.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a great idea.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Like and I mean, it really does define what this project is all about, right? It's about leaving this earth in a better place than it was when I arrived. I'm not really bothered about me, Ant, to be honest. I don't really have much fear. I'm not really bothered about death. I'm not really bothered about anything apart from my children.
Yeah, sure.
I really look at my kids, and I want to make sure that they've got something of a good foundation to build off of once I'm not here anymore.
But it's a nice legacy as well, isn't it? But it's part of the mission inside.
Yeah,
it's inside you, and you're just bringing it out and manifesting it in the physical form that it needs to be. To make change. Which is what it should be about. We're here to make change. We see the shit. We're the ones who's got to make a change. We can't. I don't see banging on Downing Street is going to make any difference.
No, you can't change a corrupt system from within.
No.
We need to. This is one of the reasons I think, like, if you look back at the peace movement of the 60s, I think one of the reasons it failed is because it became quite centralized, and it was all one movement. Now, if you look at sort of like sporadically all across the world, these little initiatives are all popping up, then that's a grassroots revolution, isn't it? Like, eventually it's going to be so much of it that it just takes over. It just eats up all of the other stuff. And I feel like that's what we're doing now. So, like, I'm not berating anyone who wants to go on a protest. If it makes you feel good and it makes you feel strong and united and stuff, crack on. Just like, really, like, we have to understand that to engineer real change, that comes from us individually. And first of all, getting our own fucking house in order.
Yeah. Do you find that you get people questioning because I know I do with me. It's like, well, you know, what's the answer? You know, it's okay, you've brought this forward. You know, look what the government's doing now. Like you were saying before, when you talk about political things, they do well in the social media aspect. You know, I've been recently putting a couple of little videos out, and I've noticed they do really well on Instagram and Facebook. And then if I talk about consciousness, it's deaf ears.
What?
But yeah, but then you get the not necessarily the trolls, even though I get those as well.
Yeah.
But you get people going, well, what the fuck are you doing about it then? What are you doing about it instead of just talking about it? Do you get anything like that?
Yeah, I do. But I mean, like, I just say that, like, for me, I'm pretty certain that I walk the talk. You know, like, already what I'm doing is trying to build an off-grid sanctuary for people. And then, like, all of the things that go in line with that, like positive media, supportive platforms, you know, like an entirely different child-led curriculum we're building at the moment as well, to eventually become like a school, whether that's virtual, whether that's physical, we don't know yet. But
Brilliant.
I mean, I just answer it with that. I just say, listen, I'm doing it. And they go, like, do you know what really bugs me, though, is when I get, you're lucky. That's what I get. People go, oh, it's all right for you sitting up on that mountain. You're lucky. And I'm like, listen, you cunt. You got legs, ain't you?
You chose to go there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about choices, isn't it? If you're gonna compare yourself with other people and say that they're lucky because they've got to somewhere that you haven't, then you're missing the point entirely.
Exactly.
You know? We make the choices here.
Exactly, but that's, again, it's about remembering who you are, and what you're actually capable of as an individual.
But I do think there is definitely, if I look at my sort of output across the platforms, I do say a lot of the time that step one is collective awareness. Because if everyone starts to sort of go, okay, right, now we're all on the same page of the awareness part, we're all on the same page. What's step two? And step two then is to make change, right? That's but the change again is like it's a two-pronged attack, isn't it? It's the change in your local community, in your local proximity, but it's also the change within. And when they both happen at the same time, then I think change is inevitable.
Has to be inevitable. You know, and this is the thing, like you say, you it's about making that change in your own space that you can do, in whatever shape or form that is, a nice positive kind of movement, and people will come along with that, or they'll be inspired with that and do their own. You know, this is the thing.
I think one of the problems I do see, and problem's a big word, but one of the things I do experience is that a lot of people who could call themselves awake or aware or whatever, they are cooked. You know, their fucking heads is cooked, and it's because they have spent so much time trying to work it out all out there. And let's say we all started, Ant, right? Like, I'm not trying to sort of dilute that or like deduct from that, because we all started there to a certain degree, right? We was all like, okay, like, let's work loose change, right? How does that? What's going on in the world, right? But sooner or later, you get to the point where you go, right, okay, right, I get it now. How much more fucking rabbit holes do I need to go down before I start to realize I'm the rabbit hole I need to go down?
Yeah, man.
You know, like, this is the thing. Sometimes I've got these spaces and these platforms, and I'm trying to sort of promote this stuff, and then I'm getting people like throw in there like, oh, have you seen this about the Kasarian mafia? And I'm like, how the fuck is that going to help you in your day-to-day life? Like, seriously. Say you work it all out there. You know everything now. You know exactly who runs the world, how all of the fucking troll trafficking rings run, how all the money runs, how all the justice system. You know it all. How the fuck does that help you? How?
Yeah.
What you need to understand is you're the rabbit hole. And once you go deeper and deeper into yourself, then you realize that all that is just noise. And it's an energetic transaction where you're attending and focusing and giving all of your energy and all of your focus to the other source. And that's what it's feeding on that. It's feeding and feeding and feeding that. And it's getting stronger. The matrix, the machine, the man, he gets stronger by feeding on your energy. And if all of a sudden we all just went, you know what, you're a bit awkward, we don't want to watch you anymore, we're going to look over there to what we can see is a brighter future, and we're going to create it, then it just falls into the sea. It just disappears. It is
Absolutely.
literally the analogy of the Wizard of Oz is that we've been like, oh my God, it's so big and so fucking frightening and threatening. And then we pull back the curtain and it's just a little old nonce again.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's always the case.
Always.
Oh man, I'm not putting any red ruby shoes on, but I know where my place is. I'm going home, like, you know.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's a parable. It really is a fucking analogy for what we're going through right now.
Of course it is.
You know, I know that there's a lot of stuff in that narrative of the Wizard of Oz, which is a lot about the straw man, and it's a lot about all of the I know all of that stuff about the dead.
Very clever.
Yeah, very, very clever. But if we just loosely look at that situation, the whole entire thing is about this empowering, scary voice, which turns out just to be a little old decrepit man. And that's all they are. The power they've got is a fucking illusion. And the minute you start to feel your power in here, which is real power, then that just doesn't even interest you anymore. It makes me laugh when I like hear a headline or something. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. As if you can do anything to us.
But that's it. That's the beauty of, like you said, the Wizard of Oz. That's the beauty of it. You know, Dorothy always had the power.
Yeah.
She just didn't know.
Yeah.
She'd forgotten.
Mm.
And it's the same for everyone. We've just forgot.
Yeah.
We forgot who we are.
And this is the thing, isn't it? Is that like, if you want to find out who you are, then you have to go through the trenches. You
do. You got to go down the yellow brick road for a bit.
Yeah. That's it. Like I say to people, listen, no man's land. It ain't nice.
No, it's not.
Sometimes dive over those trenches and run into the real abscess of your being, the shadowy fucking where all the monsters and all the demons and all hang out down there. And you're going through there with your fucking sword of light. That's terrifying sometimes, because sometimes you don't know if you're going to come back. But once you've slayed all those beasts and you get stronger and stronger at it, then you start to realize that nothing can stop you.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
And speaking of these kind of distractions on the path kind of thing, you mentioned MAGA before. It's an interesting one. One of the things that was distracting and creating massive diversion, if you like, within the pub. We used to call it on a Tuesday. We used to call it Truth or Tuesdays down here.
Mate, I'd love to come down your pub on a Truth or Tuesday.
It was so good, mate. Honestly, and like nobody had seen a pub as busy on a Tuesday night. It was rammed. Amazing. And we'd have people doing talks. We'd have speaking or self-empowerment and getting around the system kind of thing. But the one thing that always would cause an argument was Trump.
Yeah, of course.
There was always that argument about Trump.
That's
and it still continues today.
That's his design, though, isn't it?
He is, yeah.
That's what he is. He's a magician. The whole thing is to create confusion, is to create division, every single bit of it from the beginning, and that's what literally what he's been designed to do. He's just playing his part. He's just an actor. I mean, at one point I was like, I fucking hate this geezer. And then now I'm like, he could be an AI bot for all I give a shit now. I just don't see him as even real. He's just not even, none of it's real. It's all an illusion.
It is.
And it's becoming a lot more obvious now, isn't it? That's the thing. It's becoming a lot more obvious. And like the thing is, I don't even like spending too much time commentating on what's going on out there anymore, unless it's for sort of like entertainment comedy purposes. Because I don't really see there's much value in sort of trying to work that out. Like, to me, it's just so obvious now.
It's hilarious. The whole pantomime, the whole show is hilarious. But the only time is when it doesn't become hilarious to me, and my true sort of passion comes through again is when I'm seeing people harmed because of ridiculous policy. Things like that's when I start getting angry again. But I try my best to just be the observer, really.
Mate, there's nothing wrong with righteous anger, though, Ant. Do you know what I mean? Righteous anger is a fucking good thing to feel as well,
Yeah,
and I just think the thing is for me, like one of the things I've had that righteous anger since I was a kid. Like really, I was always the loudest mouth on the football pitch. I was always the one that dragged my team to victory, like through hook or crook.
Yeah,
and I feel that like it's to me now, it feels like I'm able to, like, because again, that's just a really, really powerful and pure energy, righteous anger. So if we can take that and instead of just letting it come out sideways, we can 0 point it into channeling it into something very positive, then it's a very, very good fuel for us. It's a really good fuel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we mustn't lose that. That's part of the spark.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the time, again, I think it's a psyop when you talk about spirituality, you talk about love, and everyone just feels like, oh man, yeah, we're all hippies, and like people take the piss out you, like you're all for love and peace. I'm saying, listen, you think that's what love is, yeah? Yeah, come and try and harm my children and see about what love is.
Exactly, that's love.
You know? Yeah, it's like it's a roar, mate. It's a lion's roar, real love. You know.
But the whole love and light thing, it's quite interesting you brought that up, really, because that's that new age kind of look. It's all spiritual bypassing anyway.
Yeah.
It's a fallacy. Yes. It's literally, oh, well, you know, this is how to manifest. We just don't think about it, and we'll just focus on happy thoughts and happy vibrations, and this will change the world. But that's fucking bollocks. That doesn't work that way in this realm, unfortunately.
It looks to me as well, if you look at it, you take a step back and look at these people, and I'm not trying to judge them or anything, I'm just saying from experience, like you see, but all of a sudden they've had this like enlightenment and they're fucking half man, half Palo Santo now. You know? And they've got fucking, they're like all of a sudden their dress changes and they've got all of these sort of like bangles on and they wear all these colors and stuff. And to me, that just looks like another layer of an identity crisis. You know, and again, it's because they've not really figured out who they are beneath all of that, because that stuff's surface stuff again, isn't it? You know, but
it's part of the path though, Danny, as well, because they might, that's just part of going through. They may go, right, well, all right, I'm done with that bit now, park that and move on. You know, it's just, we have literally just trying to remember who we are. And when I started doing Reiki, so I've had some very interesting sort of like spiritual divine moments, if you like, whilst doing Reiki, you know, and I could have easily have become all hippie and whatever, but I just haven't gone down. I mean, I touched on it a little bit. I went down the new age thing for a little bit, and I come away, probably went down, dipped my toe in it for about 3 months, and was like, nah, it's not. I'm not feeling that really. You know, but everyone to their own.
It lacks meaning, though, doesn't it? And that's what the thing is.
I think it's meant to.
Yeah.
I think that's the psyop with that, and any other religion as well. It's kind of everything's about the external.
Yeah.
Everything's about, well, they'll sort it out. It's like Trump will sort it out, so I don't have to worry about anything because he's the hero. Or you know, you could say Christ is the hero. Whatever. Yeah. You know, as long as somebody else.
I've got
my spirit guides.
My guides, or the archons and stuff. And like, to me, I just feel like, listen, that's you again. Like, whatever you're hearing out there, that power you're feeling, that guidance you're feeling is you. And it might come through. It might come through people. Listen, I ain't got those abilities. Yeah, I'm not someone who can sit there and sort of like see things or channel things. I don't ever feel like I operate like that. But like, it still feels to me is that the it's all the same fucking thing again, isn't it? It's just source, which is what we are embodied.
Mate, you do it. You might not need to sit there and get a spirit at the side of you, but you are bringing wisdom through your heart, and you're bringing it out to the people. So you are doing that, even if you don't, even if it doesn't enter your head. That thought's coming from somewhere. It doesn't need to be a logical thing.
I think a lot of people would prefer it if I thought before I spoke.
But we need people coming more from the heart rather than thought, because it's the thinking that's getting us into the fucking problem.
I told you how many times people have said, like, oh, I can't believe it. Like, I had this woman, I couldn't believe it, mate. I was just like, are you fucking for real? She went out of her way to comment on one of my videos, and she said, I really enjoyed what you were saying, but you've got a very foul mouth. Do you think you could stop swearing so I could share this with my family? And I was just like, are you fucking mad? I replied saying something like, I'll tell you what, you write the script and I'll say it. Yeah. You know, it's just like I am a spontaneous, uncensored expression, right? I don't pretend to be anything else. I don't ever sit there and think about what I'm going to say or how I'm going to be perceived. I just explode into whatever I explode into. And if that comes across as foul-mouthed or is fucking people take offense to it, that ain't my fucking problem. You know?
Doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter.
I say to
What?
people, you're worried about me swearing. These cunts are fucking injecting children with a fucking clinical trial that's probably going to fucking sterilize them or fucking kill them. And you're worried about me swearing? Are you mad?
We need more passion, Danny. What's wrong with it? We need that.
It's another psyop, isn't it? It's like you've got to stay in line, follow the status quo, don't step out, like be small. And I mean, to me, we need to do the opposite. We need to really break out of our shell and be animated and be expressive and be really, really true to whatever's coming out of us, whatever we can feel, just to become that.
It's that very British thing, Danny.
It's difficult, mate. It's so difficult for people because we're imprisoned by these inhibitions that is been created for us by something else.
Definitely. But that is intrinsically very British, though. We will queue.
Yeah.
We will queue forever.
Yeah.
In silence. For a fucking roller coaster for 3 hours in the rain. We'll queue for it. And it'll be shit as well. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's funny all those culture things, isn't it? How there is so much sort of accuracy amongst that sort of the definition of cultures,
Yeah, we'll just have a cup of tea. We'll be all right.
Yeah, mate. As soon as someone says that to me, have a cup of tea, I'm like, yeah, God, that's exactly what we need right now.
You're doing amazing stuff, though, mate. You know what I mean? I know. One of these things on this path I find, because I struggle, Danny. I don't know what you're like, but I struggle with accepting the fact that I'm doing a good job or I'm doing something good for people. But you are. Do you know what I mean? I want you to know that that's coming from me. If you don't say it to yourself, what you're putting out there, what you're doing has made a difference. Because like I say, in 2020, I had to focus on the pub thing. So I certainly wasn't doing videos, but somebody had to do what you did. And I'm glad you did it.
Thank you very much.
That voice was needed, mate.
Thank you.
And not only that, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say that it's funny you say that because one of the things is, and I always, it seems to me that a lot of what comes like through me is a lot of the time it's what the collective is struggling with. And I feel like one of the issues that we're all going through at the moment collectively is about our value and about our place in the world, because it's all been shook up. And so now we're like, what the fuck? Who am I? Like, what do I bring? And so for me recently, I would say probably very recently in the last few months, I've had such a wonderful recognition of my own value in myself. And this is the thing again, right? Is that like, as soon as you start to believe in yourself, you get people saying you're arrogant or you're egotistical. Because no one is used to seeing real self-belief. They're not used to seeing people that are really, really in charge of their own destiny. And so like when you're sort of like, you're turning up and you recognize your own value, you ain't even got to open your mouth. Everyone can feel it. And for me, it's just such another important thing is that we all need to recognize our own value, right? We've all got different strengths. I'm very aware that this is what I'm very good at. I'm very good at this part of it. But you ask me to go and fix your car for you, then your car's never getting fixed. So it's a case of like, it's just a case of trying to like, the more we get to know ourselves, the more we get to realize what we're good at and how that benefits the whole.
Isn't it amazing? I was just thinking then, isn't it amazing how during in politics, I shouldn't bring fucking politics up, but it just cracks me up that you got people like you who have got great passion, all from the heart, true leadership qualities, and then you get fucking Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson.
Or fucking Ed Miliband. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that geezer, and I'm just like, how did anyone ever think that he's a leader? Like I remember Keir Starmer getting in when I did it. I don't even know what it matters, but he's got the label of being someone who's in leadership, even though I can see the strings coming out of the prick's head. Someone's controlling him.
Yeah.
And I look at these people and I'm like, do you actually see that as a leader? Like, is that a masculine fucking leader to you? Do you know what I mean? Is that someone who's got leadership qualities? Because if that is, then seriously, come on.
Shit went horribly wrong, didn't it? I mean, I think in the medieval times there were true leaders, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, like I always say this is that metaphorically, I feel like I'm still on my horseback taking fucking heads off with axes.
Yeah, man.
you know, and I don't want that to ever change. Like, and if that offends you, or you'll think, oh, that's a bit brutal, I couldn't give a fuck.
But that's what people need,
mate. The one of the big psyops is, and I think this is how it's affected the whole sort of aware and awake community, is that people have sort of they've distanced themselves, or they've actually seen that leadership or authority is a negative thing. Well, it's not. It's just their version of leadership and authority is negative, but positive leadership and positive authority, there's people out there who are very, very good and able to be able to direct, to be able to lead, to be able to communicate, to be able to have a vision and say, like, this is somewhere we need to go to make I find myself, Ant, one of the things that I've always had is I am so good at making decisions. I'm not saying my decisions are always right, because that would be egotistical. But I know that I can make a decision in real time very quickly, and it's normally quite firm, you know, and it's come from a place that is very quick and decisive. I think that's a great quality of a leader, you know.
It is.
When you've got people who are sort of, everyone's going, what should we do? What should we do? Well, I'm not like that. I'm going, this is what we should do. You know?
A great leader for me is one that inspires for me, and I can feel it from the heart. That's when I know I'm aligned.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't follow anyone anymore anyway. But I feel, if I feel that from someone and it aligns to, and I've got a resonance with that, then that's great for me. I'll listen to that. You know,
I feel the same from you though. Is that, like, I get a real authenticity from you? You know, there's no agenda. There's no sideshow happening. There's no sort of like, like I came here with a script because I want to. It's just like we're just two very, very fucking super ordinary dudes just having a conversation.
Absolutely. We both come from working class backgrounds. We see.
Come on, my son.
Going on. Exactly.
Do you know, that's one thing I'm so proud of, mate? Do you know that? I'm so proud of my working class roots. You know?
Yeah, me too.
Because we fucking struggled, mate. I'm telling you, we've really struggled. And like, I've got a big, massive network of people, and the ones that have come from sheltered, resourceful, opportunistic backgrounds where they've had it all just given to them, they're lacking something, man. They're lacking substance. They're lacking backbone. They're lacking a pair of bollocks, you know. And I really am so glad. I'm so happy that I've landed in the realms of what I can say is salt of the earth, the common people, you know. And I believe that is why I am so many people resonate with me, because I am a common man. You know, I mean, I'm not educated. I left school at 14. I'm incredibly intelligent, and I'm aware of that. I'm not educated, you know, and I don't really mind me P's and Q's. I speak from fucking heart, and that's what we could all be doing, isn't it? That's what we all need to be doing.
I think, you know, that's the education thing is so important as well, but you weren't, because I didn't fucking listen. No, it's so important.
I threaten my kids, right? My kids are all homeschooled, yeah, and I threaten them with school.
You will go to school.
I say to them sometimes when they're doing my heading, you know, like, which they do, kids, you know, I've got 3 young kids, you know what I mean? They're going to do my heading now and again. I'm only human. And I say to them, like, you're moaning about things. I say, well, go to school then. I say, well, go and sit in a classroom for fucking 8 hours and listen to some boring teacher tell you their version of reality. And they go, no, we don't want that. And I say, all right, then go and climb some fucking trees and be happy about it.
But you're doing the right thing, though. That's the thing. Yeah. You know, you're doing it. And your kids will, when they grow up, they'll go, thank God my dad was the way he was, you know.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's that legacy again. Mate,
the proof's in the pudding as well. Like, if you met my kids, they're super confident, but they're also very respectful. They're very emotionally intelligent. They're not in the sense of like I mean, because it's all a load of bollocks anyway. It's like, oh, my kid can do the times tables. Oh, right, great. Well, good luck to you. You know, I couldn't care about any of that, all of that competitive recall. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the people who have got degrees are great at saying yes, at listening and being told. You know, for me, it feels like the people with true intelligence are trying to almost create another version of reality, which is far more important to me. And so my kids get that. They get this sort of like, we're doing something different, you know, and they understand when because we live in, a lot of the time, we live in a fucking, like, in the middle of nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it is. It's nice, mate. you know. And
Yeah,
sometimes when we go back into, like, we go back to London, or we go into the, like, the town in Belgium, and there's like loads of people around, and I say, look, like this is unnatural, isn't it? You can feel this is unnatural, and they go, yeah, like they're fucking shitting themselves.
yeah. I was in London the weekend, actually. We went down
Oh yeah,
because
you said, yeah, it was
yeah,
what was it? It was a celebration, wasn't it?
yeah, my daughter's birthday today.
That's
She's
right.
19 today, but she's studying at Arts Ed, so she's
Oh
studying
yeah,
to be an actor.
is she
Yeah. So she's a very talented girl. I'm really proud of her, you know. And
amazing?
but I can't do London. I can't do
No,
cities. It's too
no,
much for me. The energy
yeah,
is far too much for me.
yeah.
I need space, you know. But my daughter's loving it at the moment. I'm not saying that she'll love it forever, but right now she's loving it. But she's 19, and it's a different time, and
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
I still, if I go back, like I told you the other day that my nan passed away on Sunday evening, and so
oh,
I
sorry.
know that inevitably I'll be going back for a funeral, and like, of course, it's not the nicest reason to have to travel back to London, but I'm also like, I sometimes, when I know it's only a short trip, I get excited by it, seeing all my old mates and family, and you know, like I love to go and have a bit of pie and mash, you know, like, and
Yeah,
I do feel like I look around and like that hubble and bubble. It's still like it's something nice, but I just couldn't live there, you know, anymore. I couldn't. It's too
no.
fast and furious for me.
It's a dense atmosphere, that, isn't it? It's a very strong, dense energy, I find.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, technologically and as well, like, you know, technically speaking, in terms of like what is going on in like EMF side of things, I think that has a
yeah,
massive effect on our persona.
it really does. We've got it here, though. I must admit, like you step outside and the because it's a council estate as well. The pylons are everywhere. We're
Yeah,
covered. We're covered
mm,
in it.
yeah,
But you've got to do what you've got to do to protect yourself. But we literally can walk across the road and we're in nature. There's a lake there and everything else, and we can literally go and have some peace. You know, so we're very fortunate as well. And it's just finding what's great about the world you're in. You know, I'll
yeah,
walk the dogs in the morning and I'll listen to the birds sing it when the sun's coming up.
mm,
That to me is just incredible. You know,
yeah.
and it's finding the little things like that that brings joy to my heart.
Yeah, and I think once you're like, if we could loosely say that is like our connection to the natural world, right? Which again is the connection to the source, you know, where we're from. I think once we're attuned to that energy, I think a lot of that stuff which affects like the normal people, the turnip heads, I think like that stuff doesn't affect us. I don't think it can. I don't think our bodies are too. They don't assimilate that anymore. They're just like, no, that's not. That's where, if we understand ourselves, we are an incredibly sophisticated, advanced piece of hardware. Once we start to understand that and we're able to utilize that, then I don't think any of that stuff gets in our way. It just cannot enter this field, you know?
Yeah, mate.
So
Yeah, yeah,
I think when we're at this level, I really believe to myself, it doesn't matter where you are, you know? And I say that to people a lot of the time is don't sit there and be like, oh, I should have, I could have, and I wish I was there. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, man. Every time. There's no coincidences out here.
No, there isn't.
No.
No, there isn't. Where can people get to hang out on MIGA then? Where can they go? Have you got a website?
Yeah, we've got a website which is www.freefolk.co is the
Okay.
website. And then pretty much you can find everything from there. Our MIGA space. We've got a really lovely space as well, Ant, called it's called the Hearing Heart. And it's
Nice.
ran by a guy called Swiss, who's one of our team, and he does a wonderful job of facilitating and guiding what I would say is like another level of self inquiry for people. And
Love it.
it's done in such a compassionate and patient and humble way by him that it really is. I would say, like, if anyone's really struggling who's watching this, or you sort of like you just want to connect with people and come along, you know what I mean? It's open for everyone. It's like runs week in, week out. All these spaces are really designed to support people, you know, through this very, very sort of grave transition we're going through in our species, you know. But look what you can become, you know, when you do it. Hey, look at us.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, me too. That's the thing. I'm like, whenever like this is, I think it was Marcus Aurelius, who, of course, like was a fucking Roman senator. But like, if you do any kind of look into Marcus Aurelius, a lot of what he stood for was Stoicism, you know, which is like to be sort of understanding that everything is happening for you as opposed to against you. And so that's the thing with like when we realize that life is happening for us, it's not happening against us. You know, it's doing things to be able to invite us to make positive change all the time. Once you click that switch, that's it. Like you just go like, oh fuck that. Oh, what's that trying to help me with? You know, and it starts to happen even quicker and quicker and quicker. So then you become it all the time. You're just like, oh right, that's another invitation. That's another invitation. That's another invitation.
Yeah.
And it stops being so threatening then, doesn't it? It stops being like, oh no, poor little old me. And you're sort of like going, right, what's next, you fuckers? Let's go.
Well, we have to remove that kind of that part of us, the you know, the one that's been trodden on. We're not that the victim. Sorry, I'm trying to find the word. Then we got to remove that victim mentality.
Yeah,
we are much more than that. We're powerful beings, and we just got to remember who we are.
Yeah.
And you're doing a great job helping people find themselves. So I appreciate what you're doing, mate.
Thank you very much.
You look after yourself, Danny.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
And listen, good luck in the semi-final tonight, and maybe we see you, maybe we see you in the final.
Well, we'll talk after that, shall we?